Sorry. Good morning. Greetings and salutations, my artsy friends. How is everyone today? Oh my gosh. Good night. So, I'm trying to get everything set up as quickly as possible. I hope that everybody is ready to just relax and play with Karin markers today, and what do I want to say? Just hopefully get into the zone. That's always my artistic goal. I hope it is yours too. Just a sec. Okay, so a long time ago, I taught a class. Well, I taught a couple of different classes. Good morning, Keels. Using Karin markers. I taught them for a couple of different stores during the pandemic. One was Paper Arts in Edmond, Oklahoma, and one was Paper and I in Marshall, Michigan. And through those experiences, I met two of the coolest people in the world. I met more than two. But the two that are sticking out in my mind right now are Vicky Dooley from Paper Arts in Edmond, Oklahoma, and Linda Schuldeis in Marshall, Michigan, from Paper and I. So I pulled out my little handout of all of the for my Karin marker class, and I thought, let's do that today. And then I thought, oh, you know what? Sunday was National Daffodil Day, so I thought, oh, I'm gonna pull out. I have daffodils. Look I drew all these different daffodils, and it's called Denise's Daffodils, and I'll put a link for that in the comment section. And then I did something really dopey. When I was typing up my newsletter and I was looking at my calendar of things that are coming up, I wrote down that today was National Poppy Day, or yesterday was National Poppy Day. It was actual National Puppy Day, and I'll tell you why, because I didn't have my dang glasses on. So we're going to do poppies and daffodils, but just know that it wasn't Poppy Day yesterday. It was Puppy Day. So let's play with some colors. So I pulled a bunch of yellows and greens for daffodils. Good morning, Valerie. Good morning, Keels. I know, Karin markers are the best, aren't they? They're the bomb diggity. So I'm going to tell you a couple of things. Good morning, Susan. A couple of things that I mentioned in my handout. One was create a swatch chart with your markers and watercolor paper strips. Be sure to label your colors. So let's see. This book is my swatch book, and here's my Karin markers. When I was first introduced to them, look at 10, 25, 20, 20. I wish I would have labeled everything. These are the only ones that I had. And because I had borrowed Lauren's, here's the ones that Lauren had. And then, so I only let myself, I think there's 10 here. I only let myself buy 10 so that I could just practice. I tell you guys all the time, just buy some, see if you really like it, buy colors that you really like. So that's what I did. And then, then I called Beth, how are you? Oh my gosh, Beth, I will show you so many cool things to do with them today. I promise, promise, promise. Then I called Audrey at Paper Night and I bought all of them. Look at them all. I bought the neons, I bought the metallics, I bought all the colors. I love them. Okay. They're super juicy, just like Beth just said. And so, so if you're using them straight from the pen, just add a little extra drying time. Storage, you want to store them vertically, tips up, metallics horizontally. Because of the Japanese durable and flexible nylon brush tip, let's see, let's find a color here. They are incredibly versatile from brush lettering to watercoloring. They blend beautifully. They're filled with intense liquid ink colored dye-based paint. I know that's a big mouthful, but break that down. Liquid ink colored dye-based paint. So that means they are, you can move them with water. They're water soluble. You can move them with water. Sorry, I have a little pop-up that keeps coming up on my screen. Smooth application of color, non-toxic, made in Poland, brush tips medium to large, medium large, not refillable, great price point. So here we go. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is that I never use them straight from the pen. I always use them like watercolor. So here's what I do, Beth. I'm going to start out with Denise's daffodils, and I'm going to show you a couple different ways that you can, so you can color it on your craft mat, right? So you see that. And grab some water on your brush. There we go. And then you can start to just paint that in, right? A little bit more water. And I'm just getting kind of a base coat of yellow down. Yeah. There we go. There we go. Right? So that's one way that you can add color with Karin markers. And the cool thing is once that's dry, then you can layer more colors, just like any other watercolors, right? Another way that you can use them is, well, let me use up this last little bit of color. You know I can't waste color. So I'm just gonna get all of that down, and it's okay if I overshoot the sides because remember we're going to be fussy cutting these anyway. Okay, so let's pick another daffodil and I'll show you a different. I'm telling you, Beth, you're gonna fall in love with them because you can, they last forever and a day. I've had mine since 2020 and 2021. Hey Jennifer, you can use these forever and a day. They, like, this one is from 2021 and I do tend to use them quite a bit. Here's a trick that, so you could add a little bit of color like this and then take your wet brush and move that color. So kind of a wet on dry technique, right? Let's fill that in. I need a paper towel. Well, I guess, oh, there we go. So Jennifer, Karin Markers was one of the sponsors of this year's artist retreat, of this year's Walk in the Woods, and Corbiere-Scott Designs water artist retreat. And Carmen taught a class with them, and what she did was she did a wet on wet. So here's what she did. She wet the substrate, right? So let's just do like 3 petals. And then she took her Karin marker and she just did some dots of color, and then she just let that water work for her. So she just pulled that color down. Right? And then you're just going to continue to build that. I'm addicted to Jennifer. They're so fun. So is Teresa. She and I were just talking about them yesterday. She's like, I think I kind of fell in love with them. I said, they're pretty fun. So let's do that. Okay, and then let's continue with Carmen's technique of just doing some dots of color. And then we're just going to, remember, we're just going to let that water work for us. Because you see it's already pulling the color down. Then we're just going to kind of help it along. I hardly ever, the only time, Beth, that I use a Karin marker straight out of the pen is when I let's see, when I brush letter with them, because they're perfect for brush lettering because they have such a nice tip. So let's see, what can I write? Oh, first let's take a drink, shall we? Okay, so let's do the word daffodil. How does that sound? They are great if you struggle with watercoloring. You're right, because it's kind of a more controlled environment. So let's, there we go. Can I tell you how many times I have to check my spelling of the word daffodil? There you go. Daffodil. So that's the best time that's the only time that I really use it straight from the pen. Mostly I use it like a watercolor. Anyway, so that's that. So let's play around with these a little bit more. Okay, so now I have some deeper yellows, so we could I have an ochre, which let's look at that. Do you see? That's quite a bit darker. So let's make that into a watercolor. And then let's just little by little add, and it's so much greener, right? Little by little add. Some of that. And I'm just adding it like we always do at the base of the petals. And then eventually I'll go down the sides of the petals to build that form. That's what we like to do. But I wanted to show you, if you go to your if you go to your swatch chart, then you can fiddle around with, like pick colors in a different way. So gold is what I started with. What if we use a pale orange? Let's see. I have amber. That's one of my favorites, I have to say. Pale orange. Okay, so if we used pale orange on this one, so this was wet on wet, right? We can do that again. We can come in. Get some wet down, and then do those dots of color. And remember, we're just gonna let, and I'm just tapping it. I'm not pushing with any kind of pressure. I'm just tapping some color, and then we're gonna let that water start to work, and then just start to pull that color down on the outsides of each petal. And that's just going to start to build that form as you're painting. Stop it. I love that. And I deliberately left a big piece of white, like as light as I could go right here, without adding much color, because I want it to look like this petal has a little bit of a bend in it, right? And a highlight is what's going to do that. So let's get our brush wet again. We're just gonna, let's do the same thing here. Wet on wet. And you're just gonna slowly build that out. Let that water work for you. Pull off any pigment that you have on your brush and tap it on your paper towel. This one, the one we used ochre on, do you see we have this delineation line? So remember, the way to get rid of that is wet your brush, tap it off, and then jiggy jaggy blend. Just jiggy jaggy blend, 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 blend. There we go. Okay. Jiggy jaggy blend. That will just slowly start to soften that edge. And sometimes let it work for you. Like I have a pretty strong edge right here. And I've done the jiggy jaggy blend to a degree, but I'm going to kind of leave part of that there. Because now I want to build on that. Does that make sense? Same thing here. So let's let that all dry just a little bit. Hi, Kathy Upchurch. How are you? So I hope that you will just continue to play with your Karin markers. And like I said, if you haven't bought any, if you don't have any, go buy 3 colors that you like or 5 colors that you like. And maybe because we do a lot of flowers, you maybe need like 1 green. And then whatever your favorite, if you love pink or if you love yellow, if you love orange, get a couple of those. Maybe get like basic colors, a green, a blue, a violet, a yellow, an orange, and a red, maybe, or a pink. Or if you're, if you have some and you just want to play a little bit more, then start to like just slowly build your collection, or take the deep dive and buy the whole set. I have the whole set, but I bought mine 10 at a time throughout the pandemic, mostly because, I wanted something exciting in the mail every little while. Everybody take a drink. While I'm waiting for this to dry, I wanted to show you. I did finish some more postcards. They were right here. Oh, here they are. No. Yep, here they are. Okay. So do you remember last week we started with these 3 Easter eggs? We were playing with highlighters. So I have some painted tissue papers that I created for a class. Pull those out. And I just covered my grid index cards with those papers. And then, I always want to, I want to add some canceled postage stamps to my art. I just love that it adds like just something more. I haven't added sentiments yet, but I will. I'm making some Easter cards, but I also want to make a bunch of postcards for Hannah's spring postcard exchange is coming up. And so I'm little by little building my postcards for that exchange. Anyway. So I'm going to set this aside, and then, hey, Keels, no, you know what? Never mind. I'll do it. I saw this quote this morning, you guys, and it just kind of stuck with me. And it is, so there's a girl that I follow on Instagram called Ink and Lise, Lise. So it's INKANDLISE. And she's so inspiring. Anyway, she was talking about inspiration. And she said inspiration is derived from the Latin word inspiro, which means breathe life into. So I thought, that's what we can do. We can start just breathing life into each other and each other's art, right? So please, when you paint something, share it. We can all be inspired by everybody's everybody else's creations, right? Because somebody is going to do something that you're like, oh, so you're not going to, I'm not encouraging people to copy. I'm encouraging people to see things in a different light. Everybody sees it differently, right? Everybody sees everything differently. But the cool thing is as you look at other people's art, you start to see different color combinations or different, like a cool background that they chose, or a layering technique, all the things. And you will start to, little by little, go, oh, well, I want to play with that idea. And remember, once you buy these, you can use them over and over and over again. Because once you have it, you have it, right? Okay, here's Lucinda. And the Lucinda art printable was one of the very first ones I drew when I like had this dream about starting my own business and my own art community, right? So I'm going to set this one aside, and I'm going to bring the Lucinda over. And these, I think these are just meant for Karin markers, because there's so many things to, so many ways to use them. So I think let's start with kind of traditionally poppy-ish colors. Let's see what we got. I know, Keels, I saw that and I was like, oh. Breathe life into. Shut it. That was brilliant, right? Okay, I got that pale orange. I think I want to fiddle around with that a little bit. I have amber. I have fire red, orange red, red, neon red, which you think that will be kind of a cuckoo color to add, but I'm telling you, they add like just this little neon orange red. It just adds a little pop. So I'm going to just start with pale orange. So let's get a base of color. There is a companion art printable for this called Card Candy 1. And it has lots of these same flowers. And sometimes I go back and I'm like, oh man, I remember when I drew that. I want to play with that again. I want to, I don't know, build something new with that. So be on the lookout for something new. Featuring these flowers. Okay, what about that? So I think let's do both of these in the same manner. And let's see what we got. Just so we have, but I want them to all be I want them to all be various shades, like differing degrees of color and values. Meaning lights and darks of the same color. Does that make sense? When you play with that, oh my gosh, you can grow your art in leaps and bounds. In leaps and leaps and bounds. There we go. And do these. And these other two flowers, I think I want to wait and do those in, maybe I want to do some more reds. Maybe I want to go out on a limb and make them all blue. I don't know. Okay, so now I kind of can do, so I did the base color, but now look, this is already wet. So what if I came in and did the ... of color on top of that petal that already has a bit of color, and look, I'm just pulling it right down that black line, and then just jiggy blend out that color. There we go. Do you see how just the addition of that, I mean, we have a ways to go, but just the addition of that has already started to create a form on the petals. Okay, that's a little bit wet right there, so let's do it there. That one's a little bit dry, so I want you to see what happens. So this one, the water's already starting to work, right? This one, I need to work just a little bit harder to pull that color. It does seem to work best to build color like wet on wet. Okay, so I just wet it again. There we go. And then just back, forth, and then pull that color, wipe off with your paintbrush. Turn, turn, turn. Remember, let your hand relax a little bit. Right? Wet on wet again. There we go. Pull that off. So we want to just slowly build our color. We're not saturating our paper with water. We're just a damp brush. And then you can draw it on or you can dot it on, whatever kind of feels right to you. Thanks, Kath. But do you see how, I hope that on camera it shows the slow build of form. I hope that you can start to see. So, do you see I have a little bit of paint puddled down here? So now I'm going to tap that with my brush, because remember, when your brush is just damp, it kind of works as it'll like suck up the color. So if you have excess color on something, tap your brush on your paintbrush and tap your brush on your paper towel and then put it back over on the wet area and it will suck up the excess moisture. Well, hello, Miss Eva. How are you? Oh my gosh. How are you? How are you? How are you? Grand, I hope. Okay, I'm wetting my brush again. I'm going to come back in here and do that same thing. I'm going to tap on some more color. Right? So I could do it that way, or I could do it this. I can just get some on my craft mat, wet my brush, tap, tap, tap. Then I can pull color like that. And look at, I have some stippling that I did up there in the corner. Let's play with that. Let's pull some of that out too by adding, we're going to kind of draw a little attention there by adding a little more color on there, but it's a slow build. It's a slow build, right? Tap it off on your paper towel. We have, these are all pretty wet still, so let's do that tap, tap, tap with our color. This one's dry, so I'll show you the difference, what happens. Okay, so do you see how this is wet? So the water is already doing a bunch of the work for you. Now I wet my brush, tapped it off. Now I'm going to come in and I'm just going to do that jiggy jaggy blend, and I'm going to pull the color toward the black line, right? Because that black line kind of gives you a barrier for your blending. And that one, I'm going to just add a little bit more down here in this little bitty corner. And this one too, just little by little. This one. Just build, build, build. And if you paint with your Karin markers like this, they'll last you forever. Little by little, pull that color out. If there's a tool that we have used in the past, I don't know, art crayons or watercolors or colored pencils or, I don't know, gel pens, whatever it is, if there's something that you would like me to showcase, please, by all means, let me know. Okay, I'm going to add more water. Little by little. On Sunday, Saturday, Jeff and I went on a went for a ride. I know it's kind of crazy to be going for a ride with gas as high as it was, but we had just gone to Desiree's soccer game and it was hot. And so I wanted to see the desert wildflowers. They only bloom for a short period of time here. So we went for a ride out by a place called Castle Hot Springs, which used to be a kind of a fancy resorty kind of place a long time ago for Hollywood types. Anyway, it was like a resort. And then it kind of just fell into disrepair. Like it was just kind of neglected and just sat there and started to kind of rot away. Someone bought it and now it's a fancy resort again. It's I haven't even inquired how much a night stay is there. Probably a lot. But where it is located out by Lake Pleasant, which has really nice wildflower displays and lots of nature and donkeys and all kinds of cactus to look at and take pictures of, and it makes me so happy. It makes me so happy to go up there. Anyway, I saw so many cool there we go. Jiggy jaggy, jiggy jaggy. I saw so many wildflowers, not as many as in years past, and so I don't know if I'm like before them or after them. I did find some Mexican poppies, which are so pretty. I found some desert marigolds. They're very pretty. There's only certain places that you can pick them. Like if you're on state, like regional park area, you are not allowed to pick them. But if it's just desert, if you go kind of past that area, I did pick a couple. Not very many though. I picked desert sage, Mexican marigold, Mexican poppy, and desert marigolds, which I thought I would, I thought I might press those flowers. I thought that might be kind of cool to see what I get, you know. I'm feeling like I want to make a bookmark for myself. I got 2 books for my birthday, one from Eva and one from Kay. And so I thought, oh, I need a bookmark. And I thought, oh, that would be timely. I told you guys that we're doing a family book club with great nieces and nephews, and my sister and I, and my nephew-in-law. I don't know. He's just my nephew in my estimation. Anyway, stop it, you guys. Yes, I'm loving that. I'm loving that. Like, that's really starting to kind of come into its own, you know, beauty. Everybody take a drink. Okay, these need to dry a little bit. So let's go back to daffodils, shall we? Okay, so this one, I remember I did some ochre. So let's get a little bit of wet on there. And now I'm thinking, what if I came in with like canary? And I layered that on top of the ochre. Let's see what happens. Because it's kind of a bright yellow, where this one is kind of a buttery, warm yellow. This is a cool yellow. I thought that might be kind of fun to kind of layer that, see what we get. And come back in with our damp paintbrush. So my plan for all of these painted flowers is to make more postcards for the postcard swap with them. Ta-da! That one needs a little more color, I think. So, remember I said, if there's a line that you kind of can't get rid of, like right here, this petal right here, do you see there's kind of a dent, right? So what I think I should do with that is I'm going to take the gold that we used originally. Isn't that the color we used first, I think? And then I'm going to come over here with a damp brush, not a wet brush, and kind of just get a little bit of water on there, and then just barely a hint of yellow. But then I'm going to kind of play up that kind of dent in the road there. See what I can do. But that's going to kind of add some dimension to our petals. And this one, kind of the cup of the daffodil. Let's do some wet here. I'm going to pull the wet up the sides. And then I think this is where we added ochre, and it's, right? We could add a little bit of ochre on top of that canary. See what we get. So do you see that ochre has already started to spread? I'm loving that. But let's pull that up. And that automatically, right? So move that out. And then these were not wet. So let's see. Remember, we have to work a little harder with them. Here we go. So this might get a little wrinkly, right? My watercolor paper. I find that if I, like, once they're painted to, like, they make me happy to look at them, then I like to fussy cut them and then put them in a book. If I put them in a book and I let them sit there for a couple hours, maybe even a day or two, they'll be flat as a pancake and gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. So I had this idea when I was creating this this daffodil art printable. I really thought about, I wanted to draw daffodils in lots of different styles, and so that's kind of where I was going. My nephew and I think I talked to you guys about this. My nephew Seth is a tattoo artist, and I said, let's challenge each other to a drawing, like drawing challenges. And I said, because he's from Montana, I said, let's do bitterroot. Bitterroot is the state flower of Montana, and so I was like, let's do that. Let's play with like drawing it in different styles. Like, oh, so I'm so jazzed about that. So that's why I was kind of like, oh, I want to get that one out, because I remember I drew it in different ways, and I don't know, just made me happy. Let's see, what do we want to do next? I have sulfur yellow and I have neon canary. So I'm thinking that one's still pretty wet. Let's see, what do we got? This one, you know what? We could do the word daffodil. Oh, you know what? What if we did this guy? I'm going to start with a base of neon canary. See where we go. So I did the cup. Wet on wet. I know, look at how bright it is. I know, but we're going to make that work in our favor. Let's take our brush and we're just going to move that color around. Move it around. Because we're going to use that as our base, and we're just going to keep building on there. Now let's take some of that color and start doing these petals. I like these petals because they're so geometric and angular. That kind of makes me happy. And there's a lot of water and pigment on that cup, and so we'll be able to use that to our advantage. Oh my gosh, you guys, I read this quote about reading, because I love to read. Love to read. And it said, reading isn't just about knowing, it's about awakening. And I'm telling you, that's exactly how I feel. Certain books, not all books, but certain books. When I read them, I feel like it's awakened something in me to, I don't know, learn more about a subject maybe, or about a place in the world. Sienna has not had her baby yet, Keels. She has not. Teresa said she's having little contractions here and there, but nothing full speed ahead just yet. But I'm telling you, so you guys know, I went up there for her baby shower, and Teresa and I pulled up to her apartment complex, and there's like 4 apartments in that building. And I looked and I said, Teresa, Jean, look at over there. Sienna was shoveling snow for her guests. We are a family of doers. So I yelled out the window, hey, you're too pregnant to do that. And she said, shut up, Auntie. Yes, we laughed and laughed. And she has the most talented friends who did like this gorgeous balloon arch and these gorgeous sugar cookies that were decorated in her theme. Her theme was a cherry on top, and the cookies were, oh my gosh, so beautiful. She had little onesies in there and some round cookies that had little cherries on top. Oh my gosh, so beautiful. Okay, is this one, let's see, is this one dry enough? So we're gonna let this one dry just a little bit. We have a little bit of time. So now I'm gonna wet my brush again, tap, 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 and then I'm gonna come in and see if I can add some of this neon canary. and see what that does as far as brightening the whole thing. There we go. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? Just the addition of... So don't be afraid of neons, you guys. I was forever and a day, but Tessa and Lauren love neons, and so I was like, all right, I'll play with them a little bit. And then I realized if you are painting in kind of a traditional colors, the addition of a little bit of neon, oh my gosh, makes such a difference. So I'm going to add some more here and here and there, and then let's work that in. There we go. That's not as bright as I had wanted, because I think because I'm going over, okay, I'm just going to try it straight on, see what happens with that. Because I'm going over that ochre, which is kind of a deep color. So what if I do this? What if I... It's brightening. Let's try that again. Just do a stripe of it. And then come in with a damp brush. Tap, tap, tap. Move that around. Okay, so this is the one, remember we had the kind of a distinct line right there? So the hey Lindy Barnes, so the neon blended that out a little bit. Let's put a little bit of neon on the outside edge of that same petal and see if we can work that in. See what we can get going with that. Yes, I love that. Okay, let's do the same thing here. I'm kind of liking just doing a stripe and then working that stripe in. Or a strip, or I don't know, a line, whatever you want to call it. Let's do it there and there. There we there we go. Loving that. I'm loving it, loving it, loving it. Now I want to build up here a little bit. Oh, you know what? I think I want to build inside of here. What if we did that? There. There, there, there. Isn't it funny? Look at how yellow it looks when you just paint it on. And then look at how bright it is after you move it a little bit. Tap, tap, tap. Look at that. It's like night and day. That's why you need a swatch chart. That is why you need a swatch chart. So I think I want to leave this, and then I really want to come back and build that up with maybe the sulfur, maybe the gold, kind of round things out a little bit. Okay, this one, that's looking like, how much time do I have? 5 minutes. I can do a lot in 5 minutes. Everybody take a drink. Okay, so I started that with the sulfur yellow, right? So, no, neon canary. Or did I do sulfur yellow? I don't know. Let's see what happens if we add a little bit of regular canary on top of that. So I just scribbled it on, wetting my brush, tapping it off, then moving that paint. There we go. Tap, tap, tap. Pull that color out. Oh my gosh, I'm loving that. Of course you are, Denise. They're named after you, my love. Okay. Scribbling a little bit more. Denise and her bestie, Nancy, asked me if I would ever draw Denise asked me about daffodils, and I said, sure. And then months later, I drew some daffodils for her. And I'm trying to remember what Nancy asked me to draw. Oh, I don't remember. I'll find it, though. I'll find it. You guys, look at the difference. Look at how the base of that neon just popped this canary in a whole different way than this one that has canary, and this one has canary. So just experiment. Remember, if you what do I want to say? If you've bought my printable, you can print it 5,000 times. And this printable has 1, 2, 3, 4 daffodils that you can play with, right? So you can try different techniques on each daffodil. And you can do that with any of my art printables. Tulips, thank you. Thank you, Denise. It was tulips. Maybe we'll do those next week. All right. I think I want to do a little bit of regular canary on top of that neon. See what I get there. Tap, tap, tap. The base of that neon is just, gives everything a beautiful shape. But do you see, like, it's just, I'm taking my time. Just take your time. I mean, what a cool postcard would this giant daffodil make. I'm kind of in the mood for that. There we go. I feel like I want to add a little more color to the center of this daffodil. So I'm thinking, let's do the wet on wet right here. Like right here, right here. I still like that the center, this is lighter right here, but I think I want to build a little bit of color. I'm just going to take that canary and just tap, tap, tap some polka dots around there. And then jiggy jaggy blend. Oh my gosh, there we go, there we go. That's kind of more what I was thinking. And remember, because this is water soluble, I can set this down and go, because I know it's after class, I can set this down. I can just let these sit and I can come back. And once I put water on it, it'll move again. So that's another beauty of a Karin marker, is that you can, number one, the colors are so intense and saturated. Number two, that they move with water, and we are all about moving with water, right? That's our jam. Anyway, please paint some daffodils today. Paint some poppies. Make something fun. Just lose yourself in color. Play with your Karin markers. And let me know, like I said, if there are other printables that you want to play with, if there are other materials and other mediums that you want to play with. Let me know. Say it in the comments. I would love to hear. Thanks so much, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow in Stitch Along. Bye, everyone.